Governor Perry gave his State of the State address this week, and one of his proposals provoked much conversation at a time when his and other budget drafts are making major cuts in funding for colleges and universities. He asked those institutions to offer four-year degrees for a total of $10,000, including textbooks. Evan Smith with Texas Tribune is here to help educate us on this proposal. Evan.
Yes, and I don't have $10,000 to do it. This was one of the many headlines that came out of the governor's speech. He also talked about defunding certain state agencies, Texas Commission on the Arts, Texas Historical Commission. But nationally, I think the thing that caught most people's attention was the idea that somehow a bachelor's degree could be had for $10,000, including books. Do the math, divide that by 4, that's $2,500 per year. There's no way that you can get the kind of excellence that Texas wants out of higher education, asking that little in the way of tuition, including books, from college students. So as much as we may talk about excellence, it seems to cut completely against our goal.
Now, Texas Tribune had an article about apparently there is one college that's doing that.
Well, there are a couple, but the nature of the degree is it's super no frills. And oddly enough, it's one of the programs that would be defunded in the budget that was put forward. Whether it ultimately ends up getting defunded is another question. But look, the cost of an education at public universities in Texas is significantly higher than that right now, and people generally think that we're not spending enough money on higher ed as it is. Now, there can always be costs cut, and God knows in this budget we'll cut costs, but can you really provide the kind of experience for students and the environment that would allow you to hire the best faculty and researchers and ultimately convey the best academic degrees on people if you're only asking that much? It's great politics for the governor, who is all about cutting right now. I'm not certain from a higher ed policy there's a whole lot going on here, though.
Well, we've already seen in the last 4 years since the legislature basically deregulated, they were cutting back, if I understand correctly, on funding for colleges and universities.
Right.
And as a result, they enabled them to, without state approval, raise their tuition rates. So they've already been raised well over that $10,000 figure.
Well, that's true. And of course, what people will say is, well, since they deregulated tuition, now a whole bunch of families are going into debt. And wouldn't it be better if the cost of a higher education experience in Texas went down to the point that families could afford it again? I don't begrudge the governor his desire to see the cost of higher ed come down. The question is whether he's proposing it come down so far that he makes the very degree he's enabling unattractive for the people who could now afford it. And of course, on the other side of the aisle politically from the governor, you have people who are saying, well, the governor, one Democrat in the Capitol emailed me to say, well, the $10,000 degree that the governor wants to convey over 4 years is roughly equivalent in cost to 1 month of his rental house in Westlake Hills, Texas, where he's living since the governor's mansion is being repaired. I mean, they want to say to the governor, you're willing to live high on the hog and you want students to live sort of down at the bottom. But this is really about the political mood out there right now. Cut, 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 and worry about the consequences later. And the reality is a $10,000 bachelor's degree may not be attractive enough to attract any takers.
Well, that's it for this week, Evan, but thank you very much for
Rick,
educating us on this one. We've set up a link to the Texas Tribune website. Just go to klrn.org/TexasWeek.